What's up, addicts? In this video, we're going to be going over the Vipers and Wildcats recap of all of the fantasy stats in this one, giving you guys an analysis of what we can expect going forward for these two teams. But hey, before we get started, if you're new, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button for more XFL content posted daily. Anyway, let's get started right away. Well, we finally had our barn burner game. The shootout that we've been waiting for just happened in a less than expected situation here. We final score in this one, Wildcats 41, Vipers 34. Came down to the wire there at the end. Was definitely the highest scoring and most exciting game that we've seen in the entire XFL. Hope we get more games like this one going forward. A lot of fun to watch. If you guys didn't get a chance to see it but do want to still experience the action, you can actually watch. We put together an entire condensed version of this game where we cut out all of the dead time between plays, cut out all of the unnecessary talking, all the commercials, basically trim it and condense it down to where you're just seeing the action. Comes out in about 30 minutes. So if you want to check that out, hit the link in the description or the box above me and watch this entire game. But recapping this one, Josh Johnson is just phenomenal. He is not getting nearly enough credit for what he's done for this team. And a lot of that just has to do with the fact that they're only 2-3 right now, but missed the first week, came on a little rusty in the second week, and ever since then has been a dominant force. Willed this team to victory here, dealing with half a hand. Nelson Spruce has been hurt. Trey McBride missed a portion of this game with an injury. They've had injuries to their running back core. Overall, this team has just been hurt on both sides of the ball. Their injury list has been growing each week. Hopefully, they can continue to stay relatively healthy going forward and get some of their guys back. But Josh Johnson is playing lights out right now. And that's not to say that Taylor Cornelius didn't do a good job himself. It was a very competitive game on both sides of the ball. Very awesome to see how much the Vipers offense has progressed. It's going to be a little bit difficult for them to try to make the playoffs now. They're down 2 games off of every other team in the East who are now 3-2. But I do think that they still have a decent shot of winning the playoffs, especially with the way that they've been playing. Very good game for quite a few players in fantasy. Let's get into the stats, beginning with the Tampa Bay Vipers. Starting with Taylor Cornelius, 22 of 34 on the day, 300 yards exactly, giving you that nice 3-point boost in DraftKings. 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Also had 7 carries for 45 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Very strong performance from Taylor Cornelius here. This Vipers team has been very good on offense ever since Taylor Cornelius has had the chance to take over the full reins himself. Running back here, we had Devian Smith with 24 carries, only 69 yards. Bit of a disappointment there going against the team that has allowed more fantasy points to the running back than any other team. Jacques Patrick, 7 carries for 23 yards and a touchdown. Devian Smith had 1 catch for -5 yards. Jacques Patrick had 1 catch for 21 yards. He did leave the game due to injury. He did not come back in. No telling how serious it is. He was on the sideline for the remainder of the game. He didn't go back to the locker room, so probably a decent sign, but monitor that situation going forward. Jacques Patrick was looking really good until he left the game due to that injury. On the receiver side, we had the 3 main guys here, all pretty heavily involved. Jalen Tolliver led in yardage. He had 7 targets, 4 catches for 95 yards, and a really nice touchdown. We also saw Reese Horn with 11 targets on the day, 9 receptions for 90 yards and a score. And then Dan Williams still looking really athletic out there. No touchdowns, but 7 targets, 5 catches, 86 yards. No other receiver getting any passes in this one. In terms of tight ends, Nick Truesdale was back, but he was barely involved. Incredibly disappointing considering how much they had used DeAndre Goolsby the week before. Only 4 targets, 2 catches for 13 yards. Incredibly disappointing day for Nick Truesdale. And then DeAndre Goolsby, no catches, no yards. Tight ends were not being used in this offense very much at all. Definitely going to depress their value a lot going forward. Their defense played pretty well in the first quarter and then just forgot how to play defense after that. Josh Johnson was able to do pretty much whatever he wanted, so it'll be very interesting to see how this team goes forward. Anyway, let's jump over to the LA Wildcats now. Beginning with Josh Johnson, 20 of 36 in this one, only 56% completion percentage, but 288 yards, 4 touchdowns on the day. His first pass of the day was an interception, and from that point on, he was throwing the ball incredibly well. Also had a little bit more on the ground today than we've been seeing with him. 7 carries for 19 yards. You'll take that. Very solid performance there. They started DeJuan Harris in this game. He had 9 carries for 7 yards, not even a yard per carry, 1 touchdown. He got the goal line carry there. And also had 1 target, no catches on the day. Martez Carter was back, but he was not involved too much. Only 5 carries for 15 yards. Also had 1 catch for 16 yards. Larry Rose getting involved in the pass game, 2 catches for 10 yards. Also got a conversion play. Not really much from the run game. All to do with Josh Johnson and the receivers. Pretty long list of receivers here who have caught passes. We'll go over the most notable ones. Jordan Smallwood continues to get it done in Nelson Spruce's absence. 4 catches, 86 yards. Looked pretty good, including a 54-yard bomb. We had Saeed Blacknell getting open deep down the field a lot. Had a few missed opportunities as well. Could have been an even bigger day. 7 targets, only 3 catches for 78 yards, but he did have a touchdown. As we mentioned, Trey McBride missed a good portion of this game with a rib injury. Finished the day with 6 targets, 3 catches for 35 yards and a score. Brandon Barnes, 3 catches for 26 yards on 4 targets and a touchdown. He also suffered a knee injury in this one. Looks like it might be pretty serious. I didn't see him on the sidelines at all for the rest of the game. Don't have the same reporting that we do in the NFL, but I wouldn't be surprised if Brandon Barnes misses significant time. So make sure you note that and maybe pivot over to Daquan Hampton, who hasn't looked too good, but he did have a pretty nice touchdown grab in this one. 2 catches, 14 yards, and a score. Donis Jennings, 1 catch for 15 yards. Winston Dimmel with the last catch there, 1 catch for 8 yards. Pretty impressive game from Josh Johnson considering his overall cast. And then really a bend but don't break defense performance on most drives. The Vipers scored a lot due to the 3 turnovers that the Wildcats had committed in the first half. In the second half, the Wildcats defense was playing pretty well. They did start to slow down or not be able to slow down the Vipers near the end of the game, but for most of that second half, they played pretty well. Forced a few turnovers there at the end. Finally, that interception to end the game. Very impressive performance on both sides of the ball. It's one of those games where you feel bad for the team that walks away with an L because both of these teams played pretty well, and it was mistakes for the Wildcats that got them in the hole and the mistakes for the Vipers that ended up losing them the game in the end. So very interesting game here. Really like both these teams going forward for fantasy. Lots of options here. Anyway, that's pretty much it, guys. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Also, check out my website for everything that you need to be able to manage your fantasy team. We have a new section up there now for stats, sortable stats, that you can also look and see how teams performed against certain positions, against receivers. Really helps for our analysis going forward. Our rankings will be posted later this week. Pretty spot on this week ever since we added that analysis to our website. So I hope that can continue and hope you guys find that information useful as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.